Welcome back to the program. How much of what you post online is subject to scrutiny? Should a random Facebook or Twitter post prevent you from securing a job? Well, reaction is mixed. Here's Craig Bell.
Yeah, I have really mixed feelings about it, honestly.
Dustin Patel just finished grad school and is searching for a job, but says there's no way he feels comfortable dogging a future employer on Facebook or anywhere else in the public for that matter.
The things you post are kind of a reflection of who you are, who your character is, but at the same time, yeah, there are things I'd like my friends to see that I don't want my employer to see.
So moving into the future, it's going to be a lot more issues that come up around Facebook and people's communication, and I think also privacy issues.
Amanda Farahani is the managing partner for Barrett and Farahani, Georgia's largest and oldest firm specializing in employment law. She says American social media comments are considered free speech.
You're allowed to use Facebook, you're allowed to talk about your workplace, but you're not allowed to do it in a way that harasses or intimidates or threatens other people.
Back in December, the National Labor Relations Board tackled a case where union employees complained about their employer via Facebook and were fired.
You can't fire somebody because they engage in protected activity. So what the people were doing, what the employees were doing, was talking to each other about working conditions. To fire somebody for that is illegal.
They don't have the right, sure. Are they going to do it? Maybe. And will I ever know about it? If they did, probably not.
Dustin Patel still isn't quite convinced and plans to play it safe as he posts his thoughts and feelings socially.
It's fun, you know, and they're memories from my friends and I, but yeah, I keep it professional now, for better or for worse.
All right, so how do you keep it professional? Joining me now is our Director of Human Resources at CBS Atlanta, Laurel Behringer. Thank you so much. Laurel, I suppose that if you're here, that my posts have been professional and everything. We're on good terms, right?
We'll talk.
Okay. Oh, gosh. All right, so tell me a little bit about the hiring process.
Sure.
And also, you know, employees that are working at CBS Atlanta and what you guys look for as an HR department as far as social media posting is concerned.
Okay. Well, there's really three aspects of social media or categories. You know, you mentioned people who are looking for jobs, employees, but also I have to protect the interests of Meredith, who we work for, and our supervisors, so they don't do anything that they shouldn't do. The statistics are showing that about anywhere from 37 to 50% of employers use Facebook to search or look at employees or potential employees. So there's a lot of aspects, and a lot of the legal aspects have already been covered, but as the gentleman in your previous story mentioned, what an employer can do, should do, and what they do are not always the same thing. We are lucky, though, because we work for a company that's fairly careful. First off, if they're using another company to look at Facebook or to look and see what someone's doing, absolutely they need to get a release, but there's nothing to stop a supervisor other than good HR from going and Googling and trying to look at somebody's Facebook.
Sure.
Okay? They shouldn't do that, and certainly the person who's hiring shouldn't do that, but we all know it happens. The reasons they shouldn't do that is because they're going to see things potentially that they don't want to see, things about personal activities, off-duty things, and there are even laws that talk about off-duty activities. So supervisors or hiring managers don't want to see that. They think they do, but they don't, because it's potentially going to get them in trouble. As an employee or a potential employee, is a little bit different approach.
Right, and so here are some social media stats. Talk a little bit about what we're looking at and what these numbers mean to the viewer.
Well, as I mentioned, that, you know, anywhere from 37–50%, depending on which survey, uses social media as an employer to look at potential employees. And it looks like, you know, we're really using Facebook a lot. Between 29 to 65% of employers who say they use social media to screen future employees or potential employees are using Facebook. Then LinkedIn is the next one. They also use Twitter, and then, of course, blogs.
You know, what's interesting, I mean, there are a lot of businesses that do not allow employees to be on social media sites during the work hours. Of course, in television news, we need it. It's a tool, and it is for a lot of businesses as well, a tool to talk about what they're doing, what viewers can expect, in our case on television, what stories we're working on. So we use it as a work tool, but also people are putting personal information on there, and there's a fine line.
Well, another thing, and I believe one of your other guests mentioned, to be aware of your social media policy. First off, quite often, the fact that you've signed off on that IT acceptable use or whatever it is, technology policy, not just social media, it says that you understand that anything that's communicated is open. Okay, so you've implied the consent. So absolutely doing it during working hours, not a good idea. Plus future employers or your employer who sees you posting things. So that's a lot of good common sense not to do it at work unless it is work related.
Wow. And so how often would you say, like in your case, before you hire someone, before you go through that process, or as you're going through that process, how often do you all look at social media?
Well, I go back to you should use third parties to do that and to send you information that's been scrubbed with things like religion and nationality and age, and all those things are out of it. About the only time we use it is on-air personalities such as yourself, who part of what we're hiring is your personality and your background and that. Other than that, again, Meredith doesn't. We do use LinkedIn though. Absolutely use LinkedIn, and we're looking for professional qualifications. We're looking for participation in groups, intelligent comments about professional things like I should be tweeting this, so future employers or peers can see this because it would be relevant. If you were applying for a social media job, I'd sure want to see that you were active in things like LinkedIn and stuff like that. I think one of the keys, though, is to keep, first off, recognizing that anything you say on Facebook or LinkedIn, no matter how good your security setting is, if it's not something you would say in a group of people, don't put it on the internet.
Yeah, and I would imagine, Laurel, too, that if you were looking at qualifications on somebody's social media site and you saw an inappropriate post or a post that could be considered borderline, that would play into the decision-making process, right?
Well, it depends on what you mean by inappropriate, but depending on what it is, it shouldn't play in. And that is why I recommend that hiring managers never do that, because once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So not seeing it is the best thing to do.
Interesting.
So, again, LinkedIn is a little bit different, and I think we've now established some really good lines, and LinkedIn is one of the primary sources. It's becoming the #1 source for a lot of employers just for recruiting in general. So if you stick your Facebook for purely social and personal uses, LinkedIn for your professional uses, and if you're tweeting, maybe have separate Twitter accounts.
Sure.
And watch those. The usernames that you're putting on some of those could be important too.
What's interesting, the takeaway from this is that it's important, I think, for our viewers to know that if you're looking for employment, then you might really want to improve your LinkedIn page. I mean, this is something I didn't really even consider or think about, that it's not all about posting something that is inappropriate. You can also take away the fact that you can post some really good stuff on LinkedIn, and your employer might consider that or would look at that.
Absolutely. I mean, at this day and age, I think everybody knows not to post, or should know not to post inappropriate things. Think before you're posting. If you, as an example, you've got your Facebook and you've called in sick, don't be posting about your workouts, okay? Don't be posting about your, where you're going that evening. If you're irritated with something, cool down. So, don't post too regularly. Look at who your friends are. Some of that, I think, is pretty common knowledge, I would think, at this time. Double check. I checked my privacy settings before I came up here. So some of those things make perfect sense. But on LinkedIn, you should always be looking at that professionally if you're in career mode, okay? I constantly update mine. The time you want to look at LinkedIn is not when you're going for a job. It should be something you're looking at all the time. We talked a little bit about Facebook. We've got some more tips up there about monitoring your friends list, because you don't know who your friend of a friend is. That can be awkward. Look at keeping some of your likes, what you like, what you don't like, and keeping them a little more generic. But the LinkedIn is probably, if you're looking for a job, where I would focus on. And don't start connecting with your boss when you want to look for a job.
Do we still have to have that chat?
We do.
Oh, no. Okay. Thank you for being on the program,
You're welcome.
Laura Barringer, HR Director for CBS Atlanta News. And when we come back, we'll wrap up the show.